Right, Dave, let's have a little look. Let's have a check we're live.
It's typical.
Cough it up, Dave.
You need to cough right away.
Let's just check we're live, mate. Just check we're live. If you have joined us, do say hello. Give us a nice little thumbs up. If you are on the live, just check in.
Yeah, we are. Just
you always get the notifications, don't you? Typically, I never get the notifications. Here we go. Happy days. Let's have a little look. Awesome. We're in. Wow, that was a matrix. Yeah, hey guys, it's Andy here, Dave from Evertrack HQ, with another Tuesday tune-in. Yeah, so a little bit different today. We've kind of talked a lot about numerous different subjects, and we were like, right, this week, we'll talk a little bit about hydration, about water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey Miko. Hey Rob. Great to see you on, guys. Yeah, if you have joined us, I know people sort of drop in. Do say hello. Do give us a little thumbs up. Also, as well, any questions? I know we're start off talking about water as we always do.
Yeah.
A particular subject, and then we'll move on to something else. But yeah, just comment with your questions. Our social yeti Lauren is looking after the questions, so we'll just have a little look and see what's happening there. But yeah, right. Hydration, Dave. Water. What are we?
Yeah. I mean, pretty important for a number of different reasons when we go to Everest or Tanzania or any sort of country where we run these trips to. The one sort of key feature, the thing I probably think about the most day to day, is water and hydration.
Yeah.
So I think it's an important topic for us to sort of launch this live with. I think there's two aspects to it that are really important that you need to get right. So one of them is to do with acclimatization. So we're going to talk a little bit about how sort of staying hydrated helps you acclimatize. And it's not just about staying hydrated as you would at sea level. You have to compensate for the effects of altitude. So you have to you're like a basking shark almost, just like taking in as much water as you can. But then the other side of it is if you're drinking that much water, you need to make sure that it's safe. Because if you are taking in all that water during the trip, the chance, that some of that water might not be safe to drink, the effects can be catastrophic, as I experienced in Nepal last October. So yeah, that's what we're going to launch today's one about. And yeah, we've got an interesting little tidbit to show you as well, I think.
Yeah, we decided when we were talking about water, we were like, well, we may as well. I don't know if you've seen a post we put up the other day. So we've had some cool bottles made, basically like filtered water bottles for our trips. And we thought, well, we may as well do a little demonstration today. So we've got a little bit of interesting sort of dirty water, and then we're going to
it is grim though.
Use them in these little bottles. Yeah, Dave, you got yours?
The water, I put it this way, it's so grim that I was like, cool, and you take one for the team there. It is Faustian. I can't even
it's not there's a lot of words we can describe it. But look, it's great to see so many people on. Ian, I always go through, Byron, you're always on here. Miko, Sarah, Leah, Paula Reed, who was lucky enough to win one of our trips to Kili. Yeah, great to see you on as well. Bri, keeping hydrated. I know you're awesome on hydration, mate. So yeah, I knew you'd be on this one. Although I think fermented water is the probably more of a preferred drink.
Yeah, it's more of like a fermented vegetable drink, I'd say. That Byron is Byron that Bri is a fan of.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, look, here we go. With regards to Lauren's on it. She is on it today. So drink so much water all the time. Very good question, actually. He brought up about because it's kind of weird. It's kind of froze on our little questions here. So Lauren, we are relying on you.
Yeah.
With these questions, for some reason they're not showing. But yeah, you've asked. Let's have a little look. So much water all the time. Won't we be using the toilet constantly, and won't it be annoying? Dave?
Yes, and yes. But there's no way around it, unfortunately. So yes, you need to drink. So when you're trekking at altitude, you're going to be thinking, so down here on sea level, we talk about 2 liters a day. 2 liters a day is too little. So you need to be thinking 3 to 4 to 5 liters a day, depending on how much you sweat as well. Me, I run hot, so I'm drinking at least sort of 3.5 to 4.5 liters a day.
Yeah.
And the go into the toilet problem is something that kind of goes with altitude, because as your body acclimatizes, you will pee anyway. It's a natural side of acclimatization that your body will start to like flush out. I'm not entirely sure of the sort of biology around it, but if you speak to the guys at the altitude center, they'll be able to tell you exactly why. All I know is that altitude, when you are acclimatizing, you will naturally have to pee a lot, which is why you have to replace that fluid to make sure you stay hydrated. It can also be compounded by Diamox as well. If you take Diamox, it's like adding rocket fuel to the acclimatization process. So that peeing that you do happens like crazy. So I took Diamox for the first time when I went to Kili, and I feel bad for Andy because I was probably getting up and out of the tent to go to the toilet once or twice a night.
I do remember that well.
Yeah. But I think it does kind of help. I think if you try and take your Diamox, like sort of not right as you go to bed, so if you sit there and you forget and then you take the pill straight away, that'll be peeing a lot. But no, whenever you're at altitude, you need to drink tons and tons of water. It's probably the number one thing next to pace that helps you acclimatize.
Yeah, it is a biggie, isn't it? Now we all, if you've been following us for some time or you're new to the community, over the last couple of years, it's one thing we always like to come back to. We never want to forget about the water, because it is the difference. I mean, personally, I think that and pace, is the number one difference in why you're going to either reach Everest Base Camp or the summit of Kili or not. You can get unlucky, of course, but majority of the time it does come down to hydration. So you get that right, you're more or less there. Obviously, I know you've got to walk into it, but it certainly gives you a head start. So whilst drinking all this water, it over the years, it has brought up a few scenarios, a few things that necessarily weren't great. Especially in certain areas, like on the Everest Base Camp trek, when you're staying in villages and the water isn't necessarily clean straight off. You've got to do something to it. So you've got to have purification tablets, or if you could be bothered doing that, people used to just buy plastic bottles. So there's a couple of things there we kind of wanted to challenge. Early last year, we brought in the water filters in the pool. Obviously, we've introduced them to the other countries now. So that was a big thing for us, because we wanted to reduce that plastic consumption. Whilst, also, like water purification tablets, I've used them myself. They're fine. They work really well, but you don't necessarily, the taste isn't great. So we were thinking, right, we got to change that, because it does give you a bit of heartburn. It's not nice when you're thinking, I got to drink this water. It just doesn't taste great. So that's why we kind of introduced the filters. And certainly when we were looking at these bottles, because we're going to make sure these are accessible to everyone, there's lots of different variants of these, but Water to Go, we met them at the Adventure Travel Show a couple of years back. We decided, right, okay, let's go for it. Let's get these. They're really good, good quality. I think this is like a 75 centiliter, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's got the so inside, that's the bit that does the magic.
Yeah. So
basically, that'll filter out all of the nasty sort of bugs, viruses, bacterias, heavy metals, all sorts of stuff like that. So I did see someone just asked about what are our thoughts on hill water whilst trekking in the UK.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's something that I'll drink it in this all the time. So whenever I go hiking, no matter where, I made the mistake last July when I went and climbed Ben Nevis. We did the CMD route and I ran out of water because it was a seriously hot day. And I had this with me, but I left it in the van. So I had no choice then but to drink water. But it depends where it comes from. You see, I won't drink anything that's coming through an area where animals graze.
Yeah.
So when you was high on Ben Nevis, you are above where all the animals are, and you can see these natural springs and things like that. They were safe to drink from, or the burns as they're called in Scotland.
Yeah.
But so in Brecon, you don't really have much opportunity to sort of get those high springs. So I won't drink anything that's been through where the animals are.
Yeah.
And unless I've got this, this I would drink up. I would fill up in a puddle if I had to. It wouldn't bother me.
Would you? Would you, David?
Not that. Oh God. Swill it, and give it a swill. Let's see if the sediment.
It does smell a little bit. I don't. Let's have a look. I tell you what, I'll have to use.
You don't want to disturb it.
Well, just in case it spills. But anyway, take our word for it, guys. This isn't that nice. I will give it a swill in a minute, but we'll come back to that. I know we got a lot of questions coming through now. It's kind of weird because normally I can see all the questions, but I can't see them. Dave, can you?
Well, I can't see them now. So what I'm going to do is, Social Yeti Lauren is going to save the day by sending them through on the list. So Caroline Williams has asked, what pill was I just talking about? It's a pill called Diamox.
Yes.
And Diamox is used by people that go to high altitude to help their acclimatization. It wasn't initially made for that. I think it's epilepsy and maybe glaucoma.
Epilepsy, wasn't it? Yeah.
But it's now predominantly, and the majority of the time, its use is for adjusting to altitude. So anyone that summits Everest and things like that, they'll almost always take it. When you go on our trips, so when you're trekking to EBC, going to Kilimanjaro, it's an option to take it. You can get it prescribed by your GP, but they tend to be a little reticent because not all of them are sort of aware of its use for altitude. So we recommend going to a travel clinic where you can meet someone that specializes in sort of travel medicine, and they'll know everything about Diamox and be able to prescribe it to you. And you take about there's so many different rules, ideas of how to best take it. The most widely accepted and the one that we adopt is if you're going to take Diamox from the first point of your trip as like a preventative measure for altitude sickness, you'll take half a pill in the morning with food, half a pill with your evening meal. And then if you do start to develop symptoms of altitude sickness, you would up that to a full pill in the morning and a full pill in the evening. I took it for the first time when I was on Kilimanjaro. So I've done EBC a few times, never taken it. And then on Kili, I just think I wasn't adjusting too well. So I switched and took it. And the only side effects are you pee a bit more. You have really specific pins and needles, like one half of your tongue or like your nose or like that finger or your toes. But mainly it'll be this sort of area, your snout, if you will, your fingers and your toes. You just get really bad.
Your extremities, isn't it? Sometimes.
Yeah, I say really bad. It's annoying, but it's way less annoying than altitude sickness. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. So Lawrence put them on the old WhatsApp, so I'm just picking them up here. So in terms of, let's have a look, Caroline, where do we get the water from, and do we need purification tablets? So with the water, with regards to like Everest Base Camp, just to talk about that first, and we can talk about the others. Basically, there's water sources generally because you're not far away from a river. Now, normally they've got some sort of tap or water source in each village, but again, it's not clean or not that great, and there's a bit of a risk. So with regards to water purification tablets, normally your guide would fill your bottles up for you, and then you can drop the water droplets in there. Our guides used to carry the water purification tablets. We still do just as an emergency, but because we got the filters now, they don't need them. So basically, what would happen now in Nepal is that they've got this big, basically sort of bucket, if you like, that's got a pipe coming out with a filter attached. So what they'll do is they'll fill that with the water from the water source, and then they'll take your bottle. So obviously if it's one of these, but you don't need to purify it twice, but it's not going to hurt, or a normal water bottle. And then they fill it up for you. So you leave it there on the table. Obviously, maybe put a little sticker with your name or something like that on it, just so you don't get it mixed up. That's happened before. But just so you know whose is who, and they'll go off. They'll fill it up for you, just so it means you don't go short. So there's always water there. Very similar in Tanzania. So because you're on Kili, sometimes they have to carry some of the water between camps, but there are water sources sort of around there. Depending on the time of year, it might be sort of easier accessible than most, but there's always water available. It's one thing we need on all of our trips. Obviously in South America, again, because you're high up there, you're not far from a river, it's the same process really. And the same in Morocco. But with the remote regions, you're talking like remote, like when you go to the Everest region, obviously the further you go up, there's one place really that doesn't really have trusted water, and that's Gorakshep. So we used to sort of say that, if you're going to buy plastic bottles anywhere, although it's not ideal, there's no flowing water through. So it's a hard risk. In saying that, if you used one of these, although as long as you get it right in your mind, you'd be fine. If you're scooping up the water and things. But if you do want to buy a bottle or two, you can. If you're there, it's not ideal, but if you need the water, you need the water.
I did in Gorakshep. I think I ended up buying about 4-liter bottles in Gorakshep.
Okay.
But what I did, I had a 3-liter water bladder, poured them straight in the water bladder, then just crush the bottles flat. They don't weigh anything, they don't take any space, stick them in your rucksack. And then they got the carry back campaign in Namche. So you can pick up some other plastic things and stuff like that. I did just spot one question that came up from Alexandra Treen, who said, heard of using Viagra for altitude sickness.
I've seen it. I've seen
There
it up
is
there
some
as well.
evidence. It's not widely used because Viagra has certain side effects that are sort of difficult to manage whilst trekking with people you've just met. So it's nowhere near as effective as Diamox. So there's no real need to take Viagra. I think it helps like blood flow. So
Yeah.
so we've got to be
So
careful.
it's got some benefits. I bought it as a joke in Namche once years ago. Never used it, but I was thinking, okay, if it gets difficult, and that's in the in terms of blood flow, then yeah, give it a go. But yeah, good question, Alexandra.
Yeah. Personally, I think wherever you can buy Viagra, you can usually speak to someone about getting Diamox, and Diamox is far better.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend Viagra.
I know Mick's on here as well. Mick Hamilton. Sorry, mate, I'm just reading your question here. I know you mentioned. I know we're very sparingly on Island Peak, aren't we? We apologies, Mick. We do need. We need to. I tell you what, we'll do an episode all on Island Peak. I think that'll be a good one. Let's do one of those, Dave, because I think you're right with regards to the peaks. They do get neglected sometimes, Mick.
Should we do it next weekend? Should we do it?
Yeah, we can do one next week. Yeah, why not, Mick? It makes sense, doesn't it? I hope you're well as well, Mick. I did see you down in Brecon Beacons, so yeah, glad you're back out in the mountains. But yeah, regarding water sources on or water source on Island Peak, basically when you've got Shuka, which is the village at the base of Island Peak, that's kind of the last river. As you go high on the mountain, it gets more difficult, but it does get carried up for you. So the guys do sort that out. So make sure you've got plenty of water there. So you're not going to go thirsty on there, mate. As you're high on the mountain. Is it anything else from Island Peak there, would you say, Dave?
Worst case scenario, you can melt snow.
Yeah, if it comes to it, if you get stuck on
worst case scenario, you can get snow at the high camp and melt it.
Because they do carry stoves.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. I mean, it's not. Well, it is difficult. You'd be surprised how little water you actually get from melting snow.
Yeah.
I know it's not recommended you eat it because it lowers your core temperature a lot more than it sort of hydrates you. But yeah, worst case scenario, we can melt snow because we'll have stoves and everything like that. But all the water for Island Peak, because you're not actually on the mountain for too long. So you'll have obviously the guides, yourself, all of you guys will have the water that's sort of brought with you, essentially. That way, you're safe as houses. Chris was asking an interesting question because it just reminded me of something. Do we treat the water for that Giardia and Cryptosporidium? I don't know if I'm spelling that right, Giardia or whatever, but I think that's a parasite, and I think that's the one that I had in Kathmandu. Yeah. If that's a parasite, it's got to be the one I caught in Kathmandu last October, and it was a nightmare. But yes, it is. So when I caught it, I actually got it from eating food and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure it was in some salads and things. I did the typical tourist thing where I just got a bit complacent and I just ate some food and didn't worry about it, and got caught out. Luckily enough, you can get I think the brand name is Flagell or something like that. You can get for that, and I picked it up in Kathmandu. So. But yes, the water filters that we use, the soya water filters, they filter out all of that. So viruses, bacterias, lots of other different nasty things, protozoas, and all stuff like that. All of that is filtered out. So essentially, the idea is that you make that water that is horrible and infected, you pass it through the filter, and it's treated to the same degree as the water you get out the tap in the UK, or at least it's as safe to drink as the tap you get in the UK.
Yeah. No, it is. It's as good as you can get out there. It's probably better than the plastic water, to be honest. That's on there. So yeah, it's although it's one of those sort of things you got to weigh up. But the soya water filters, we use them ourselves. I'd use them again. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
So they'll do the job for you when you're up there.
Yeah.
Mark van Roosum has said about what about Annapurna? Yeah, exactly the same process. So all in Nepal, on any trip, all the guides come from a central team. And they've all been trained about the process we like to use with the water filters.
Yeah.
So whether that's on the Annapurna region, whether that's Clymera Peak, Island Peak, go into the Everest region, wherever you're going to go. If we do open some new trips in Nepal, which we are looking forward to doing over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, then all of them will be relatively the same. If they're any different, we will definitely let you know. But that's kind of our ethos anyway when it comes to Nepal.
Yeah.
I like what Chris Clifford Hurst mentioned. Water related. Love this. Do you go for swim in the lakes in Gokyo? Yeah, they're pretty cold, Chris. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you fancy it, I've seen people do it. But it's important to remember, when you're up there, it depends on what time of year you're going, because it can be like sometimes it's frozen over, so you can't. So say early March, maybe late November, going through winter, it can be frozen. So yeah, it's not very good to go. Obviously it's solid, so you can go and have a look. But other times of the year, sort of May is probably quite a nice time to go and do it. But remember, once you're cold, you try to keep the core temperature. You don't want to get ill up there. So we kind of, because even myself, I thought, I'd love to go for a swim in the river, but I kind of deterred when someone said, oh, someone did that, and then they got ill 2 days later, and then they didn't reach Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
So you're kind of risking it. If you're going into cold water when all you're trying to do is look after your body, it is risky. But it is up to you. At the end of the day, we always say it's kind of down to you. It's if you it's a bit of fun. Maybe if you kind of, depending on your route, you can do it on the way down. But I know with us, we do go up Gokyo Valley past the lakes. But if you don't get in, they're amazing to look at. If you do go past. Rob Jones has asked about squash. I think, Dave, you've done that a few times, haven't you, regarding the squeezy?
Yeah, it's all
squeezy squash.
Every hike now. Every hike.
Yeah.
So even here in the UK, it got me, I think, last April when we went to EBC, and for some reason, like, I'd never had any trouble before, but this one time in April, I was struggling to drink the water, and then someone gave me some squash and I put it in there. Makes a world of difference, And some people have said, well, it's better to drink the water, and I'm thinking the difference is marginal. Yeah. But if the difference of adding squash means that you will drink more water, then it's 100% a benefit to do. So whatever makes it easier for you to drink the water, you do. Also, remember, cups of tea count. So I'll often have black tea when I'm out there as well. So I'll drink loads of that as well. I try to argue that garlic soup counts. It probably has some degree, but yeah, no, Robinson squash, those little squeezables. The only thing I do is I bring two different flavors, because first world problems and all. I don't want to become bored of my squash when I'm out there.
Brilliant. So what's haircut? They spotted lacking your hair, Sarah.
Oh yeah. I've had a haircut finally.
It's about time, really.
Yeah. Honestly, it's revolutionized the way I feel about going outdoors. It's like I've been wearing a big, thick, woolly hat for months now. I feel great. But no, this is as short as it's been in years, I think. I don't know if it's been this short for a while.
I was going to say, mate, you're losing your Yeti looks. We're going to have to think of a new name for you soon.
Yeah. So Karen Bardet.
Yes.
Remembered, Karen. Remembered. What about filling camelbacks? So the process that we do. So if you go into Everest Base Camp or Kilimanjaro, what will happen is that every morning, once you've had your breakfast, the guides will usually come round and ask, for your water bladders, and they'll fill those up for you using the filter, and then hand them back to you, and then you just connect them back in, and then you have an opportunity to fill them up again at lunch. And then after that, then you arrive at your destination and you can drink teas and fill up little bottles like this or whatever. So filling up the camelbacks, 100% we'll use the purified water for everything. On Kilimanjaro, when we went, we took these little plastic bags which the soya filter attaches to. So what will happen is the guys will bring in a big container with a little tap of purified water. Usually it might be boiled and treated on Kilimanjaro. But
they do it twice, don't they?
Yeah, so it's like boiled and treated, so it's safe to drink. But then we also had the soya filters as well. So what will happen is guys will fill the little bag up with water and then attach the soya filter to it, and then you just turn it up and squeeze it into your bladder. It takes time, to be honest with you. It takes about a few minutes to fill a bladder. But it's a few minutes worth spent, because you'll spend far longer than that on the toilet if you don't.
Talking about toilets, as we kind of drift into it, Paula, I think Jackie, a lot of people have said worrying about maybe using the loo on the trips, or finding a quiet spot to go and hide. I think Leah mentioned about like hiking Australia, you can usually find somewhere. dodging the snakes and everything. But yeah, on them, I mean, just as we're in Nepal, there's always, if you're passing through a village, whether you go into Mera Peak, Island Peak, go to Three Peaks, Three Passes, Gokyo Valley, Everest Base Camp, there's generally a place where you can go to toilet. We've never really had an issue, especially like where the routes we walk, you're kind of passing through some villages. But if you got to go, and there's always somewhere that you can tactically sort of find or hide behind a rock. Especially as you go into Everest Base Camp, there's this big giant boulder that has been labeled Toilet Rock over the years. I wouldn't personally go behind it because a lot of people use it. But if you need to go, you need to go.
Also, I noticed it's got a plaque on it as well.
Yeah, I know. I felt so bad.
Some poor guy that passed away on Everest. So yeah, I don't use it. But the one thing I will say, it becomes a little bit of a game, because if you see a spot that you think that's a good spot to go for a toilet, 400 people before you
I've seen the same. Yeah.
So you've got to be creative. You've got to find a spot that would be good that other people might not necessarily have thought. Stay away from caves. Any type of cave, honest to God, is not worth it. So let's ask two questions. So
yes,
I'll kill two birds with one stone here. So Laura has said, any tips how to get the horrible taste of plastic out of hydration bladders? And Leah has said, do you put squash in your Camelback? Yes, and it answers the first question. So
yeah, that's a good. That's what you do, don't you, Dave? It gets the horrible taste out, and
exactly.
It's always go on.
The plastic taste has never bothered me too much, but I know it really annoys. Like my father, for instance, can't stand it. So put in some like effervescent tablets in there or the squash. It really just makes a big difference. I make the squash quite strong, and you don't really taste the plastic at all. Then the more I use my bladders, the less and less I'm. Maybe I don't know whether I'm getting used to it or the taste is kind of going away. But yeah, use anything to like flavor the water, and that'll get rid of the taste. At least it'll make.
Yeah, I mean,
so it doesn't.
It's kind of. Jerome's put a couple of different questions. He's mentioned about using his own purification tablets. It tastes horrible. Worth bringing them. He's also mentioned about about how to drink dirty water. Yeah, you may have seen I put a little snippet there, and what we'll do is I may as well do it now, Dave, because while we're talking about tasting water, so I know you want to look away, but I will. Luckily, this filter's been triggered. I actually did a little recording earlier where I did it, and the filter didn't really trigger, so that was rather tasty.
Yeah, just to put out what you have to do is essentially fill this bottle up, put it in there, and leave the filter for 20 minutes. Not each time, just the first time. And what that does is that'll sort of saturate the filter and activate all the technology in there that purifies the water. What we did earlier, and I filmed Andy doing it, we might release it, was we just like got the minging water, and I mean it is bad. I don't know what keep going on about it, but I smelt it and I was like, no, you're on your own.
Here it is.
And go on, Ant. Show me how to do it.
All right. I'll give it a stir, right, just to make it a bit more.
Have to go back, Ant. Can you go back a bit so we can see you?
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, so we can just if you're gonna pour it or something, so we can see it happening.
You can see it's relatively bad water. So basically, we've had Penny in the office, and so she has some dog food. So it was in the sink, and I thought, well, we'll use a bit of that water just to test it, because the Water to Go guys at the Adventure Travel Show did this sort of test, and I thought it was brilliant. So a little bit of Bear Grylls. I don't think I'd drink it like that. Anyway, I poured it in. I'll try not to spill it. Let's have a little look. Okay. All right, so it's in there now. Okay. Let's have a little look. All right, let's trust this works. Give a little. There we go. It's actually really nice tasting water, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's got a straw, so honestly, you can't taste anything. Like that. That is not very nice stuff.
Are you going to finish the rest of that, Andy?
Okay.
No, I meant the other one. All the goodness is in the bottom.
I know, but just for demonstration purposes, that's you've got really bad water like that. I mean, I know, speaking to Dave, who's kind of the owner of Water to Go, really top bloke. We talked about these. He uses these over in Africa, worldwide, really. They're fantastic. And they only use the filters only last for 200 liters, so it might mean that you need to replace them. They do sell replacements. But regarding these bottles, we are obviously we'd love to give everyone these bottles, but they are we always like to put a little bit of investment there, but we are going to sell them to our Evertrekkers, especially on all of our trips. So you will be able to buy them from the equipment store we're putting in the members area very, very soon. So if you're watching one and you want to get these, but in the interim, if someone wants to buy them, what we're going to do is we're going to put a little link, and you can just sort of say, okay, I want them, and then you can just pay by. We'll send you a little payment link, and then we'll send one in the post to you. So definitely sort of share them and have a little look and show us you using them in the UK before your trips, and obviously on your trips. But they will make a big difference, especially, I mean, we got the water filters anyway. We know that's great, but these, it's just nice to have your own.
Yeah.
And we thought, why don't we get some that you guys could buy and you can use, especially if you're going on like training in the UK. I know there's some questions there about people if you're hill walking. These are great. It means then that you won't have to sort of worry about carrying too much water. As long as you know there's a water source, you can just fill it and off you go.
Yeah.
So we hope you find them really useful, guys. For all aspects when you're walking.
Yeah.
Right, water. Then. We still got some more questions. Go on, Dave.
Yeah. So Haley Lou Brimble said, your friend bought you a Nalgene. Yeah, good to have a Nalgene. I've got a Nalgene. I always carry a bottle like that with me anyway, because you can fill it with stuff, and also when you get back into the lodges and stuff like that, you can fill it up so you don't have to drink out a bladder when you're sat down. Do you recall you can put hot water in them on a night and keep them warm? Yes, you can. I think it depends on the type of bottle, though.
Yes.
So
Nalgene is pretty good.
I don't know if it's going to be the BPA-free one that you can put hot water in. I'll try and find out exactly, but I think it's the BPA-free ones. But yes, a lot of people do put hot water in their water bottles, take them to bed at night, use them as a hot water bottle, and then take them out and drink them the next day and stuff like that. So yeah, you can definitely do that. All you got to do is ask your guide when you're in the lodge, and they'll provide you with some hot water.
Yeah, great stuff. Chris has asked about the flights to Kathmandu. I thought may as well answer it. Yeah, it's if you have booked onto a trip with us or you're due to go in the autumn, do check your emails. I know we've had a lot of people because we sent out an update about the coming season. Obviously we've had a lot of people get back, and we appreciate it's quite uncertain at the moment, so a lot of people are rescheduling. But Chris, with regards to if you do go, with regards to needing a COVID test, it depends on the airline. It's always changing at the moment, and that's Nepal and the UK. I mean, we like this week, for example, what was it, Spain? With the situation there, with people not being able to go to Spain in a moment's notice. We'd like to think, and we kind of fingers crossed it doesn't happen. But we are sort of planning for all scenarios, which is why we've contacted everyone for the autumn. And I know it's super frustrating. At the moment it's mad because obviously it was big last season in the spring in Nepal now. Obviously that was impacted, and then this season is kind of, you can feel it getting impacted. So that's why a lot of people are moving their dates. And I understand, with the uncertainty, it is a bit nuts. But with regards to this is something that you've kind of got to think. And Chris, it's hard to provide an exact answer because it changes every day. But for instance, if you go over there and you can get over there, it doesn't necessarily mean you get back. Because they might ask you to quarantine and vice versa. Anything can happen, mate.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give you like definitive answers because we're like you. We're kind of almost. It's kind of the wait and see almost is where we're at.
It is.
But
yeah.
That's why we've if you have. If you've had the email from us about the autumn, that's why we are offering the rescheduling, because if you with the uncertainty, if you don't want to risk it, then move it to a date where you haven't got to worry about that, and you can just get out there and have an awesome trip, where you're not worried about getting back home, where you're not worrying about whether you can get in because of a COVID test, so we are kind of saying, right, keep an eye on it if you like, Chris.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of answers your question a little bit.
I think if you do want a test, you can get them privately from travel clinics like Nomad and stuff like that. So I think you can buy a test, but it's, almost getting the test and stuff like that. That's relatively easy to do. The difficult bit is knowing which hoops you've got to jump through and when and with who. It's so convoluted and confusing at the moment with regards to the advice. I mean, even now Spain has argued back that the UK is worse than Spain in some places, so they should rethink. And now I think the UK will come back with them. So all of this stuff is publicized before it's even thought through and finalized. So it's difficult to manage. But yeah. I mean, Everest is not going anywhere. Our team,
Exactly.
yeah, our team over there are ready and waiting to take people over as soon as it's safe to do so.
Yeah.
So as soon as we can and you can, it's in everyone's interest to get you over there. So we'll get you over there. But,
yeah, exactly. I mean, we want to get out there as well. We hate being stuck in the UK as such. Obviously, beautiful country, but we want to get back to the mountains like you guys. Jerome's asked as well. Sorry, I'm just swiftly moving on, but you mentioned about, do we have any plans to introduce an extra night at base camp? Yeah, it's a good point actually. We've not on our current trips, Jerome. We've because we've kind of already sort of set the itinerary and it works for us. There's no need to change that if it works as such. But sometimes, we have had sort of private trips do that. We had a group from the US. It was they specifically said to us, "Look, guys, we'd love to stay over Space Camp. Can you organise it?" So we did, and we, because we know a lot of the expeditions are climbing Everest, so we organised and they stayed with Everest ER. Don't know if you ever heard of them. So they're kind of like the first aid at Everest. They maintain everyone, they look after them, like a bunch of doctors, high altitude doctors, basically.
Yeah.
And we organised to stay with them, and the guys had an amazing time. So yeah, it's not possible all year round because it's only really possible in April and May whilst people are climbing. Because otherwise, Everest Base Camp is just a glacier. But yeah, we can certainly do it on like a private basis. With regards to that, the difficulty about doing it in big numbers is that it's there for the climbers really. It was a base camp, so it's not a huge amount of capacity. But we can always do it on a private basis. But obviously, that's kind of separate to our normal thing. So yeah, it's something anyone wants to do. Obviously, it does cost a little bit more, and it would have to be separate to the other groups that we do. But we can always do something when it comes to things.
It does also it impacts Kalapatar as well, which is the only thing. So the best view of Everest that you get on the entire trip is from Kalapatar. Now, normally what would happen is you would go to base camp, spend some time, come back to Gorakshep, spend the night, wake up super early, go up Kalapatar, get the view, come down and go down to Ferice.
Yeah.
Because you're coming from base camp, you have to get up early at base camp, trek back to Gorakshep, which is about 3-hour trip. Then you may have to go up Kalapatar and come back down, and then you may have to carry on. So it's a monster day.
It's a big one. It's a big day. Even the guys said, didn't they? They were like, "Wow, that was a big day." Yeah.
I mean, the Americans that we took there were super fit, so it was doable for those guys, and not all of them did it. So I think 1 or 2 of them decided not to, and the rest of them went up. But those guys were like super fit, but as well as that, they acclimatized well and they did everything well. So it's one of those things where I think we always tell people we can absolutely accommodate you there on a private basis. Be prepared, though, to sort of not go to Kalapatar if it's going to exhaust you. But also, we tell people, if you get to base camp and the conditions are terrible, you can always come back, to Gorakshep.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amanda's message, and I think I emailed Amanda, but I'm not. I know I've had. I think I emailed you, Amanda. But if this is you asking about do we cater for vegans and vegetarians? Yes, we do. So we tell
on all trips.
Yeah, to adopt. Well, on Kilimanjaro you can eat meat, but that's because we bring it all ourselves, so we know it's safe. We know we can cook it properly, and we don't use anything that's not safe or fresh. But particularly in the Everest region of Nepal, then we a vegetarian diet at least all the way, and we could definitely do vegan. Like dalbat is basically vegan. It's just like curried veg and rice and stuff like that. The only thing we do say is if you are vegan, just to let the guide know so they can make sure there's no cross-contamination or anything like that. And they'll have a word with the kitchen then and just prepare you something separately. If you're not too worried about cross-contamination and you just don't want to eat anything that's non-vegan, then no problem at all. We can 100% do that for you.
Yeah, Sinead as well, who I'm not sure because I can't see the comments if Sinead, if you're on here, but last couple of lives, she's done some really good posts in the High Altitude Evertrekkers group. If you do, Amanda, I'm not sure if you're a member of that, but if you are part of the group, get in there. She's put really good content, and she's sort of said to us, look, we can put it on the website about how to manage yourself, whether you're gluten intolerant, also how to with regards to vegetarian food on the trip. Not specifically Everest Base Camp, sort of in Nepal, but it gives you an idea. And as Dave said, as long as we know and we brief the guides, we can sort of cater for anything really. We've had people with a lot of intolerances, We don't like to say no at Evertrek. We just, how can we sort of sort it out for you? And we can. We've got a good team, a great team over there. Rob, I know Rob's asked as well, how late can we leave it for changing trip? Myself off the back of what we were talking about, Chris's message there. Yeah, it's it's always difficult because it's mainly to do with the flights, because we're not involved with that, because we operate the land only sort of operation. It's really what it's like with your flights, because like for instance, the situation may be taken out of our hands, and we'll just communicate that and say, look, this is the situation. We won't be able to run any trips. We want to do that as soon as we can, but it's likely going to be sort of August time, potentially. So in terms of how late can you leave it, it's what's good for you and your flights, in terms of, like, for instance, if you go in, Rob, off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly what your date was, but say you were leaving sort of beginning of October, it's always easier sort of to plan ahead and say, okay, give us a month's notice. But again, I'm sorry to be so sort of, I'm trying to think of the word now, but to give you exact information, but it is very much up in the air right now. It's mad, because a lot of positive news coming out from Nepal. A lot of positive news in terms of, the airport's opening. I know we put a lot of information in the email for the people, but in terms of the opening the airport, but just because Nepal is open doesn't mean it's safe to go over there. Doesn't mean that that the Kumbu is going to be okay. Social distance is going to be an issue. The hotel situation. There's a lot more factors than if you're allowed over there. Now we always come from the positive angle, from us, and we'd love to get you out there, but it's how you feel about it as well, because it's it's obviously, it's like your choice whether to fly or not is kind of okay. That is on you. It's like all of us. Like if you're going to fly, it is a little risk. You can't get away from that right at the moment, but it is adventure travel at the end of the day, and an element of danger is part of it. But obviously, this is a little bit more than we're used to. But for us, it's just making sure that you're safe from our end. We're trying to make sure that if you do come out on a trip with us, that we've got that covered. We'll update you as soon as we can. And like I said, anyone that's on here, I know if you're coming on in the autumn, we have obviously sent you off some communication. So get back in touch with us if you haven't yet, because we'd like to know where everyone's at. What are you thinking? Whether you just don't want the uncertainty and you want to move it, awesome, we'll do it. If you want to wait and see, awesome, we'll hopefully see what happens. Okay.
So Leah has asked a question as well. Lawrence just popped it up for me.
Oh yes.
It's about the camelbacks again. So do you have to wash them out on a multi-day hike? And if so, how can you do it? And can you buy a water bottle for Australia? And can you put squash in that, or does it filter it out? So first one, with regards to when you're actually on the trip, you don't need to wash your water bladder out. The very fact that you're filling it up, emptying it when you drink it, filling it up again, means that it's always going to stay fresh. The reason you clean it out is because you don't want water left in the bladder to go off and go stagnant, so if it's being used every day, that's fine. Generally what I'll do, so if I'm going out hiking at home and it's like, might be a week between hikes, then I'll just, as soon as I get home and I'm sorting my kit out, I'll just rinse it, dry it, and that's it. When I'm on the trip, I won't wash it at all until I come back, and then again, rinse it, dry it, and that's it. You can get these like really long pipe cleaners that you stick up the tube, because you don't want little mold forming in the tube.
You've done that once, haven't you?
I
remember you went. I think you left it in there for a while and took a sip.
This was terrible. So I'd left it in there for about 4 months, but I forgot, and I only remembered at the airport when we were waiting to check in, and for some reason, and when you do something and you don't realize how stupid you're being until afterwards. Well, I pulled the tube, put it in my mouth, and to find out if there was water left in the bladder, I thought it'd be a good idea to try and drink some. And I actually felt like lumps of stuff in my mouth. And I was so I said at the beginning of the trip, right, if I get sick, we know where it happened now. It happened at Heathrow.
You got lucky.
So can you buy a water bottle for Australia? Yeah, I'm sure we can figure that out. We might just have to figure out how much it'll cost to send to Australia.
Like I said, anyone that wants one, we'll definitely let us know. If you want them, if you comment, we'll get back in touch with you and say okay, and we'll just send you one. Yeah, they're really good. Obviously, we'd like to sort of give everyone these, but obviously they're not cheap.
Another just, can we put squash in it? I think so. I think squash would be okay. I tell you what, you can't put in it is anything that you want to get the benefit of. So, like I one time had a little bit of diarrhea one time, and I put a sachet in here of what they call the electrolyte sachets. It wrecks the filter. So what will happen is the filter will try and filter out all of that stuff in the sachet, and it'll just clog it. If you put a Barocca in here, you'll get lovely, clean, orange tasting water, but none of the vitamins and everything will just be filtered out. So if you want to have anything that's like flavored, just use safe water provided through the soya filters. If you're putting it in this, I just drink water out of that, to be honest with you, just because it's easier. You know it's safe. You know it's not going to wreck the filter. And someone else asked how big they are as well. 750, I think. And
75 centiliters, which I believe is 750 mil.
Yeah, 750 mil. Yeah.
It's not, they are looking to get bigger ones, but these are, pretty decent size. I think a lot of these water filter bottles, whether you've got Life Straw, they're similar size. Don't know why that is, but because I always like to have a litre bottle, so I know then I'm having 1 litre and it's easy to count. But, they're best to have. Right, Karen has asked how often are EBC trips affected by lookalike flights? Anywhere in the Everest region, so Island Peak, even if you go into Mera Peak, because you've still got to fly to Lukla. And obviously the Everest region, EBC, 3 Peaks, 3 Passes. With regards to local flights, they're very much, when it comes to delays, it's very rare, but when it does happen, it obviously can be super frustrating. We get some people like to add a day on at the end, so it's called like a buffer day. So for instance, if you normally with us, with the 15 days, you can kind of when you sort of arrive back to Kathmandu, you leave the day later. But what people can do is just book an extra day, so you extend it to another day, and it's then as a buffer day just in case there's any issues. So that's a kind of an option. Very rare. I mean, the worst, I'm trying to think of the worst we've had, but I think there was one time where it was delayed by a couple of days, and literally because the flights are early morning, they literally landed in Kathmandu, got there because we got their bags sent from the hotel, and they left. That was like an emergency. I think it was actually Brooke and Doug talking a couple of years ago now. Most of the time, it's easily managed. I'd say 99% of the time. So you won't have any issues. But there's always another way. We can do it.
We're very lucky as well because we have an amazing relationship with one of the airlines over there that we use. So we're always Evertrekkers get priority basically. So we get on the very first flights out. I mean, the first. Within the first 1 or 2, definitely. And normally the weather comes in sort of later on in the morning. So if you're booked on the first flight out, you've got the best opportunity to do it. So Lauren's actually just put a comment on here that there's quite a lot of questions about the bottles. We're not seeing them actually because our feed is...
sorry guys. We're not seeing them.
What we're going to do, we'll send out some information about these bottles.
Okay. We can do. With obviously I know we're talking about on the live, and everyone's like, give me. I know what it's like. But we'll send some more information. We'll do like a bit of a follow-up after this. I can send out a little link, and then if you're interested, then you just got to sort of fill in some information. It's really sort of easy, and then we'll sort of send out the bottles to you. I'll send that to everyone separately. I'll also put a post in the group. So then if you do want one, we'll get you one, guys, because they're great. It'd be lovely. The other day, if you want to get these out to you, we don't want to put sort of barriers in the way. So we've made these as cheap as we possibly can for you. Sort of less than £20, I think we're looking at the moment. So for one of these, which would be great, and then you can use them, on your trips. So we'll follow up with that, guys, after this, in the future. Let's have a look. Loads of questions here. Okay. Sorry, guys. It's kind of weird because normally we can see them. But any other questions that you can see, Dave, that have come through?
Yes. So
okay.
I think I'm being shouted at by Lauren. So just a bit. We're going to send you an email down the line in the future, so you get all the information about the bottle. So okay. So Lauren, are you happy with that? You can let me know. Let's have a look. Francina, I think I spoke to you, Francina. You going to Machu Picchu with your daughter? If so, I remember speaking to you. I think she's been on some crazy trips. Francina, if you are the one I spoke to, are you the one that did like dog sledding and stuff like that in the Arctic and stuff? Because I wrote down quite a bit of stuff. I had a call with Francina and I learned just as much, you know, so it was amazing. So let's have a look. So Stephen Edwards has asked, do we rate the BG range? I'm assuming he means the Bear Grill range. Bear Grylls. Yeah, it's good stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah, very good stuff.
I mean, he's a clever guy, and he's hooked up with a lot of really good companies. Like I know his knives are Gerber knives, you know, some of the best. And a lot of his clothing and stuff like that is really good. It's quite casual. I've got a Bear Grylls shirt. It's quite nice, you know. So just when you're out and about in Kathmandu, it's a nice thing to wear. But no, his stuff is really good because he's been really smart and he's hooked up with a lot of really good outdoor equipment companies and stuff like that. So I mean, it's up there with anything else you want to buy. Make sure it's what you want, it's fit for purpose, and if that's the best one you feel is right for you, then absolutely get it.
Yeah, definitely.
Big grill stuff and talk about that some more. You know, I'll get some because I've got the shirt. The shirt's great. I love the shirt.
He's got a lot of gear, isn't he? I always, if you're on Facebook and you see these ads pop up, and I saw Bear Grylls, and I was thinking, okay. And then he had all of his trekking gear. I got to be honest, I've never used any of it myself, but I've seen some decent reviews for it, so I don't think it's kind of bad. With regards to Sarah McDonald mentioned about random question. No, none of these questions are random, Sarah. It's all good. You mentioned about vaccinations. It's a good one. They are a bit different. If it's for Nepal, you mentioned about how far in advance. So normally, you want to catch up with either your GP or a travel clinic like Nomad. You can have a consultation with them, and normally you want to aim sort of a couple of months really, because some of the injections you've got to have staged, especially if you go into an area like rabies, for instance, where rabies is prevalent, and in Asia. There's kind of a risk anywhere you go in Asia, really. Obviously, Nepal's in Asia, so I've not had rabies the injection myself. Dave, I know you have, but it is staggered, isn't it? Is it like 3 separate weeks
before you go? There are some. I think there's like a speedier one that you can have done that will give you adequate protection, but you'll still need to follow it up with another one. If you have the normal range of them. So I've had, I think you have one. And then another one a week later or 2 weeks later, and then another one like another 2 weeks after that. So all in all, I think you need a month before you go to get all 3 rabies vaccinations. Rabies is an interesting one. So if you get the vaccination, I get it because I've got everything. Because partially, I think I've mentioned before that if I walk past a dog in any country, he's getting petted. He's getting a pet.
That is quite funny.
But having said that, I am careful because, I don't feed cats or anything like that. Anything that can scratch you or something like that, you want to stay away from. Any saliva that they get on you. So I do not try and feed or touch anything. But, I have pet dogs on the way to base camp before, give them a bit of a ruffle. And do you remember that one time, Andy? I had my water bottle and I saw this dog and he looked really thirsty. So I tried to pour water into his mouth, and his tongue went straight up into my bottle. And I was like, right, well, that's that bottle.
Yeah, there goes your bottle. I remember that. Yeah.
But yeah, so what was I talking about, Ant? Vaccinations, yeah. So have them about a month before you go. Personally, it's one of those things where we can't recommend you to get or not to get it. It's considered optional with all the medical advice. So it's exactly that. It's an option for you to get if you feel more comfortable getting it and you like peace of mind, then get it. If you're comfortable with the risk and you think that it's optional for a reason and it's not high risk for you, then you don't get it and you don't get it. It's fine. Our advice is do whatever you feel is right, like Obi-Wan.
I'm sure I heard that from Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that is a good line. With regards, Paul Meacher asked about Bottles training weekend. Yes. Again, if you received an email over the last sort of couple of days around the training weekends, unfortunately they had to be sort of deferred all till next year. On the training weekend, certainly, if you're coming on a training weekend with us, I know that we've got the next one now we're looking at running is in January. Then you can grab one off us then. No worries.
So, Julie Chadwick has said, is there an upper age limit for your trips? No, not really. Not at all, in fact. So with regards to someone that books on, so I went to base camp in October with a guy, Dave, who was 72. And he was a fit guy, healthy, always active and stuff like that. So what I always say to people is how old you are is largely irrelevant. It's about your ability to be able to do the trip safely and enjoyably. So, whether you're 18 or 72, if the 18-year-old is there, just because he's 18 doesn't guarantee he's going to get a space if he's not going to be able to do it safely or anything like that. So, it's about, just the onus is really on you guys to tell us like what condition you're in, whether you think you can do it. And we'll give you all the advice and assistance that we can to make it happen. But age is nothing but a number,
Yeah, no, I couldn't put it better myself, Dave. I think when it comes to that, we're passionate about helping anyone. And it's certainly, with regard to an age limit, it comes down to, I mean, we're so passionate about the mindset. If you want to do it, you can do it. I mean, appreciate, you might, the body's creaking a bit. You might be a bit slow, but you know what? That's better for acclimatization. The slower you go, you're going to get sort of people who are a bit faster than others, and that's fine. But the slower the better. So we've been trekking with loads of people. Dave, I know you talked about Dave who went with you, and we've had other people who are in their 70s. And the acclimatization, altitude is a real leveler. Doesn't matter how fit you are. Doesn't matter about your age. You all have to climatize at the same pace. The same level, so if you want to get there and it means that much to you, then I challenge you not to get there, because you're kind of, who am I to say you can't do it? Who are we, to say you can't do it? If you want to do it, we'd love to help you get there. That's what we're here for. We believe anyone can do it.
Yeah, definitely. There's two things we're going to cover off, I think. So Paul Meacher said that, so with regards to the training weekends, hopefully we got the email and everything out to you, Paul, but essentially
it was sent to everyone yesterday.
We're not able to run our summer training weekends this year. So August and September had to be cancelled, both of them. We can't do any training weekends in 2020, largely because all the accommodation in the region that's able to accommodate like a group of say 12 people, they contacted us and cancelled, because they don't have the facility to be able to manage that amount of people in the times of COVID. So it's safer and easier for them to not do that until I think there's some clear indication about what to do. I mean, at the moment, people are unsure even whether they got to wear a mask to Tesco's or not. In Wales, at least. So these guys are really concerned about that. So unfortunately, August and September can no longer go ahead. We will be redoing them again. Like we said, probably we'll do some winter ones. So maybe sort of January, February, March.
We've got the dates in February, one in March, and then we've got one in August next year. There will be more, but we obviously want to try and move you. I know a lot of you already who had the email have already been in touch with us to kind of reschedule. So if it's dropped into your spam or something, have a little look because it gives you the options, Paul. Obviously, sounds like you may have missed it, so definitely have a read of that. It explains it a little bit more. But we're really kind of sad to do that because we love running them. They're amazing. We love getting out and about. But if we can't run them safely, and if we haven't got anywhere to stay, the pubs are closed there. It's difficult for us to run the training weekends like we want to, and that's we don't want to do that.
At the moment, it's largely impossible because, I mean, we don't know if we're going to be allowed indoors, like in the pubs, to eat and things like that.
Especially in Wales, I know it's a bit different, which is also a bit mad. Not saying we agree with that, but it is what it is with Wales, Scotland, England, Northern Ireland. The UK, it is quite different in regards to the in terms of the rules and regulations. Unfortunately, it's not all the same.
Yeah, I know Paul. I know Paul was planning on. He booked his own cottage, I think. As he said that, Lauren.
I believe he has.
Yeah. So I mean, it can still. I mean, you can still go trekking in Brecon and enjoy yourself, and maybe if we're around, we'll meet up and at least for a chat or something like that.
Yeah. But unfortunately, it's just the weekend like we want to organise isn't available.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're always happy when we go to the mountains for any ever trekkers to sort of bump into us and have a chat and everything. But as far as the official training weekend that you've paid for, unfortunately, that's not going to go ahead. But also, can you settle? And also, I think the ever trekkers might be able to settle an argument here that we were trekking recently with our good friend Max, and Max pulled out this apple. And he says to me,
"You just asked, by the way,
do you think that stream will be okay?" And I was like, for what? To drink? He's like, no, not to drink, to wash my apple. And I was like, why do you need to wash your apple? And then it got to a question where like, do you guys wash your apples before you eat them? Pull them out the pack and eat them? Because he was unanimously outvoted. No one washes their apples, especially not in a stream, which I think defeats the objective.
Yeah.
Actually, and that was that very stream where 5 minutes later.
I do remember.
Yeah.
Well, I did Superman impression. Yeah. Personally, I don't wash the apples. It's good though because because it does involve water. So yeah, well done, Max, for bringing that out. But yeah, great stuff. It's other good questions. Chris, Tom, Dave, have you heard of Altberg Nordkapp?
Yeah,
I've never heard of it.
I think it's an outdoor company, right? I got a fleece, I'm pretty sure, from those guys. I think Sports Pursuit might sell some stuff like that, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all. The thing is, as well, with regards to equipment, whether I've heard of it or not, I'm not like so much of a equipment snob. I tend to buy what I know, so a lot of the stuff that I buy are brands that people have heard. But I'm by no means an equipment snob, you know. So if someone comes up to me and taps me on the shoulder and says that Aldi has got these amazing base layers, they're brilliant, then I'll go and buy some. And if they're brilliant, I'll buy 20. You know.
Very good, very good. Look, it's all good. I just answering. Who was it? Brian's. Do you need anything for a dicky stomach yet? No. It's quite nice, you know. Yeah, I got no other water here. I'm getting a bit thirsty, but luckily, water filters. What can you do? Yeah, well, you know, happy days.
I know. It's not that I don't trust them, man. It's just that like that water was so feisty.
I know. Feisty. Well, this is the benefit of having a water filter. I know the ones in Nepal, the Sawyers are great anyway, but it's nice to test these out. That was actually the first time I've used one of these outside of testing at the Adventure Travel Show.
So I just noticed Karen Bardette thought that Max was talking about his gentleman's apples.
Oh, wow. Okay.
His man apples. And if that's the case, we encourage everybody to wash their apples frequently and thoroughly. If we're talking about apples that grow on trees, like a Pink Lady or a Granny Smith, personally, I never wash them.
Very good.
Thanks.
We get
lowering the tone.
Lower the tone. Just
or was it Karen that lowered the tone? I think it might be. Lowered the tone.
Well, you know, we all like to have a bit of fun, a bit of a laugh, don't we? Especially part of the community. There's always a good bunch of laughs going on. But any apple, Max, give yours a wash. It's typical we got to finish like this. Right, anyway, we've been on about an hour now. It's been great. A lot about water, a lot about apples, a lot about filters. But anyway, we will be following up with everyone about these. So sorry, we just wanted to introduce them today. And we kind of thought before the live, we should have thought a little bit more about, right, okay, how do people buy these? But we'll be in touch about how exactly to do that. And we'll get them out. But look, it's been great, Dave. Awesome as always. Any questions we haven't answered, guys, because it's the first time, actually, we haven't been able to see your comments on our screens. Normally we can. So we've been trusting Lauren with the old WhatsApp here, just dropping them in. But we'll try and get back and answer them. As always, though, drop us a little email to info@evertrek.co.uk or post a little sort of message or comment in the High Altitude Evertrekkers group. You know, there's a lot of people in there who've been on trips with us. A lot of people who are vastly experienced, you know, and know a lot just as much as us. You know, and we'll sort of answer your questions. There's always a good community, lots of positivity there. You know, regarding the upcoming season, anyone that's obviously still on, you know, we're super positive. We're still trying to have that positive energy, but we'll let you know any updates, any news, guys. You know, we're obviously on your side and we want to make this happen, but we have to obviously put safety in there as well. It's paramount with us. As much as we like getting out there, we have to think about that as a professional standpoint.
Just quickly, and because I'm being shaken by Lauren again, I'm just thankful I haven't got an earpiece in. But we missed one of Karen's questions about bed bugs in the tea houses.
Okay.
I've never found any. I've never been bitten. I've never woken up itchy or anything like that. So the sleeping bags that are provided from Kathmandu. And when you go into these lodges, there's like a little bed with a blanket and stuff like that. I've never seen any bed bugs or anything like that on them at all.
No, nor have I. You know, hygiene perspective, you can get a. Sorry, Dave, I jump in there, but you can get like a liner that you know, just it's nice and easy, isn't it?
Yeah. And Lauren also says in the future.
Maybe she's talking about those bottles, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, from Lauren to you guys, in the future.
Yeah. Great stuff. Well, look, awesome as always. Yeah, we'll see you all next week.
See you guys.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
All the best.